Welcome back, everybody. Now, budding author Botshelo Mthomboti is a qualified financial management graduate who published her first pure maths poetry book. The aim of the book is to help students who are struggling with the subject to understand it better. She creatively weaves together mathematical principles and poetic language in a much more engaging and relatable manner. Through her unique approach, she aims to illustrate the often intimidating world of pure mathematics and instills a much deeper appreciation for the beauty of numerical patterns and structures. She joins us now to tell us more. Botshelo, very good morning. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Good day. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good stuff. Good to have you on the show this morning. Poetry and maths. How do those two even mix?
Honestly speaking, combining mathematics and poetry was a challenge. However, I realized that South Africa needs more statisticians, if not mathematicians.
Oh, yes.
So this is like a poetry way of learning mathematics, and that's true poetry, obviously.
Okay, poetic way of learning mathematics.
Yes.
Just fill us in on how that is even possible. How does poetry make struggling students with maths understand it much better?
For example, in the book, I tried to add some formulae and numerical, numbers just to give it a bit of mathematics, even though it's still poetry. So, for example, there's a poem called Multiplication and Division of Variables. In that poem, you can understand that 8h times 9h will give you 72h to the power 2. So when you multiplying variables with the same things, you add the exponents.
Okay.
So yeah, that's like a poetry way.
I think I see the poem that you're talking about here. It's in chapter 6 of this book, Poetic Atmosphere of Mathematics.
Yes.
Like you said, you know that you will not add exponents of unlike variables, like 2h times 8j. I mean, it must be equivalent to 16hj, right?
Exactly. So just like you read that line, there's a common variable, which is j. But if the variable was not common, then you are just going to multiply the numbers and not add the variables.
It seems like it sounds like mathematics on its own. So where does the poetry come in then?
For example, in the book, I do encourage mathematics students using poetry just before we come into like a serious calculation such as fractions and multiplication and everything. So like there's a mathematics poem in there just to give like learners or a person who's reading that book a bit of a motivation before we get into like the serious calculation and everything.
So what kind of feedback have you received from students and other readers who've read this book?
I've had mathematicians and statisticians who've read that book and they highly recommend it. I've also had teachers who've read that book and they highly recommend it for it during a mathematics class.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does it explain the complex principles of mathematics? I mean, there's different versions of mathematics. There's pure maths, there's standard maths, we used to do what is called as additional maths.
Yeah.
So I'm still not in the clear as to how are you adding or how are you adding a creative approach to mathematics, and how would it be accepted or embraced by those who are struggling with maths? Okay,
so the first thing you need to know is the fact that this book covers basic mathematics. For example, in mathematics we have a hard sections such as trigonometry, not hard but challenging. Trigonometry, geometry, Euclidean geometry and everything. So this book covers basic mathematical aspects just before we get into like the serious sections. For example, you can't be approaching geometry and trigonometry while you don't even know the different types of numbers. You don't even know anything about fractions, your LCD and your denominators and whatnot, your simple interest. There's also financial mathematics in there. So this book lays a foundation just before you get into like that extreme maths, the deep maths. Not challenging.
I quite like that statement that it's not hard, but challenging.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it gives a sense that nothing is impossible. Not even maths, not even learning maths is impossible. It's not hard, but challenging.
Exactly. And I think I've done a bit of a research, and I found out that South Africa needs more mathematicians and statisticians. So during my school tours, because I do go to schools and everything just to like motivate learners to take maths and accounting and everything. So I realized that a lot of learners have this negative attitude towards mathematics because of their sisters or brothers or friends who've done pure maths. They discourage them. So if you had like a challenge with maths, do not discourage me while I'm in grade 9 and say, you know what, maths is hard and you know, everything like that. So I think victory begins within the mind before we even go far. Exactly. And I also love the fact that nobody in even like emerged economy managed to come up with this idea. This is literally the first poetry pure math book.
Sure.
Yeah, I know it doesn't make sense, but yeah, it has to make sense.
It has to, it definitely has to. And do you have any tips for educators who would love to incorporate, you know, creative approaches in their teaching of maths?
A mathematics class has always been like a serious class. So this poetry, it introduces like a fun way of learning, you know, mathematics. For example, during a maths class, as a teacher, get this copy and allow one of your students to perform this poem. Then you guys discuss it and learners will learn better. Yeah.
So any future plans, you know, for future books or projects that combine art and maths in a similar fashion?
I'm actually planning, I hope Mrs. Connie Ferguson is listening to this. I'm planning to write and release this academic-related movie. The first poetry, pure math movie. So, you know the Aquila the Beat type of a thing in that structure.
So how is it going to be structured?
I'm still, you know, you know, writing everything down and just narrating my thoughts and everything. It's still an idea. It's still brand new.
Okay.
And I know it'll work out.
By all means, talk to Mrs. Connie Ferguson then.
Yeah.
And then have you had a conversation with the Department of Education or, you know, in terms of incorporating this into the curriculum?
Honestly, this book just came out in 2024, January. So it's still something new. However, I've met with people like Mr. Steve Mabona through my first book, which is called The Black Child Transformed by Accounting. And we are doing presentations for that so that the book can be part of the curriculum.
Okay, all right.
But I hope this one also will be
We so hope so too. We hope so too. All right, Botshelo, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Well, that was Botshelo Mthomboti, the author of the first pure maths poetry book, The Poetic Atmosphere of Mathematics, talking to us about a book which seeks to assist students who are having difficulties understanding the subject.